stuck. Mahmoud, how are you?
Nacho, good, good. How are
Thanks,
you?
thanks for doing this, huh? Even if it was
Uh,
one day later than what we said. So yesterday was your anniversary, so you had a
uh,
celebration to do.
Actually, no, the 2 days ago, but yesterday I had to run some errands because today we started lockdown. So this is why
Yeah.
I couldn't make it yesterday. So today we are officially on a weird kind of lockdown.
What does that mean?
So I have no idea. Like I did not fully understand what the lockdown.
Is
Uh,
you don't
yeah.
understand because it's very confusing, or because you are not interested?
Because I'm both. I'm not interested. It's yeah. I really don't know. It's I think we have a curfew from 5 p.m. till 5 a.m. and then only like I don't know which uh like I think banks are open. I don't know which businesses are closed or not. I think only supermarkets are open. And then banks operate at 25% their capacity or like yeah so
Stupid
it's
kind of micromanagement rules, right?
yeah but then cars with a plate of like they divide it across the week between odd and even numbers, plates with odd and even numbers, but then people end up carpooling.
Mm.
So yeah, it's they're trying to tackle corona one way or the other. I don't know if
And
the
and
policies are successful or not.
but that they, I mean, I was following obsessively Corona. I don't know until, well, everyone was, right, but I say maybe until October or so, and then I sort of stopped. Especially now I'm in Barcelona, right, and since I'm in Spain, I spend most of my time at my apartment, and I really don't care. Like, I know they are changing like every X weeks. Restaurants are open now; they're closed at 6 or so. What I'm not following anything close because I'm not eating outside basically. So I more or less disconnected from the news. But Lebanon was doing pretty well compared to Western Europe in July or so, in the first wave. Wasn't that the case?
Uh, like official numbers indicated that, but I wouldn't be so sure because we weren't testing as much as Europe or Western countries. So
But dead
maybe
people.
official numbers would say, yeah, in terms of yes, deaths were basically under control. I think they still are. I'm not up to date with. I never followed the news, and I am currently living in a bubble in Lebanon. So I genuinely don't know what is going on outside. All I know, the only important or the only thing that I care about when it comes to the lockdown is whether we can actually go out or not. So is it a full lockdown or not? That's the only thing I care about to know whether I
Hmm.
can go out, buy some grocery, or just buy it online.
And you can, right, go out.
If yes, you either if you're using a car, as I said, odd even rule. But then if you're within walking distance, if you just walk, you can do that. So
Okay,
you
this
can
is pretty strict. So actually, you cannot go out for a walk like with no purpose and
with
so
no
forth.
purpose. Nope. You
Oh,
can maybe walk around the neighborhood, but you cannot go to the coastal area, for example.
okay.
So yeah, the coastal area is closed more or
Yeah.
less. You are fined. I think I don't know how much, but yeah, there's a
Okay.
fine there. So yeah, when it comes to the situation in terms of deaths, yes, maybe it was much better, but then uh, now people are testing, doing their PCRs, and I think Someone posted on Twitter just now there are around 4,000 cases daily.
Okay.
After Christmas, New Year's,
And what about the
and
vaccination?
I genuinely have no idea. I think they signed the get the Pfizer vaccine, but I don't know how they will be rolling it out. I don't know. I'm really uninformed, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah,
I genuinely don't know, and up to I don't care
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Let's say the thing is, it's a bit stupid to be very worried because now, even if you were here and there is apparently a plan and so on, until our turn will arrive, millions need to be vaccinated first, right? So, I mean,
Yep.
we will we will see. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
okay.
it's easier here to be tackled as well because we're around 5-6 million in Lebanon. So
But
I
the
don't
thing
like
is
it's
that
not
you
as big as
don't.
Spain, and you don't have a lot of comunidades autónomas and different cities and
Yeah,
districts.
but do you have like a public healthcare system, like a operational one? I don't know. I'm asking from. I'm an ignorant, and this like, is it? Can they buy the vaccines, or is like a private insurance who are doing that, or you don't know?
I also don't know what the procedure is going to be like, but I think it will. So we have both. We have a public healthcare and a private healthcare system. So private insurance, etc. So, but I don't know how they will arrange for all that because on top of everything else, we are broke as a country. So we're fucked. So the question is, how will we be paying for the vaccines? Who's going to be paying for
Yeah.
them? How will we be able to afford them? Blah blah blah. So yeah, we're running
You
out of
see,
reserves as well. Currency, USD, the
it's I was
bank
talking
central bank.
to Guru Anaerobic that I know that that you follow him, and even like we will come to that at sardonically speaking. I'm I'm taking my time to get to the point, huh? But
No, no,
that
it's but that's the thing. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, but anyway,
Funds our way.
you mentioned them like among the three things that one needs to do to change mindset. One of them is you cite Mark Baker's book Gang Fit. Well, anyway, we were talking like a couple of weeks back, or I don't know if it was 3 weeks ago, about vaccines and with Luca Delana. And the thing is that I mean, we were like the three of us, like presuming, that there are vaccines and that you have the option to get the vaccine or not, and then what you will do. And this is that it's a bit like missing the angle of like, what if you don't even have that option, right? And
Yep.
that's like now it's like also even here in Spain, it's a people seem to be rushing into getting the vaccine. So at first there was some skepticism. Now the skepticism seems to have gone completely. And like you have farmers who are saying that they should be vaccinated first because whatever they have livestock, and you have cases of nurses that have vaccinated their relatives, that they were not entitled to do so. And, there's like now it's getting into the first people were considering a bit people being vaccinated as guinea pigs. Now people being vaccinated as the privileged ones. And see, I wonder. And I've seen some tweets of some people, I don't know, from Mexico and so on, anger that there is no access to the vaccine. But we don't have it also in practical purposes because they have the vaccines, but they are even unable to roll out the the batches that have been received. It depends on the region. Some regions are more like Asturias is very good and Madrid is very bad and things like that. But um, so for me, it will make me think also like the quote from Nassim that they are unable to find coconuts in Coconut Island or something. You know, it's like they have the vaccines, but they don't know
They don't
how
know
to do
how
it.
to,
That they
yeah.
are discussing if they need to vaccinate on weekends or not, and things like that. You know, and who should be putting the vaccines. But anyway, it is also that it's like if you don't have the vaccine, probably like if you don't have the option, even the question is shall I put the vaccine or not will seem a bit obnoxious or ridiculous, you know, like um, I would tend to say, you know, and I don't know how is it
Yeah,
there, you know.
yeah. I This is in I do agree up to a certain point, because there was a wave of celebrities who were questioning about the what you just pointed out is very interesting, because we many people on social media, at least in Lebanon, have been approaching the subject as though we have the option to be vaccinated. Well, we don't even know what will happen to the vaccine itself. It's like, before we even discuss the effectiveness or whether you're going to be taking the vaccine or not, let's just at least try to get the vaccine. We don't. It's like, I don't even know. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, I read that they agreed on with Pfizer on getting a batch, but then I don't really know how it will be rolled out. Yeah, it's going to be very tricky, because yeah, I don't know how they're going to be doing it. The way we've been dealing with Corona thus far has been a bit hectic and chaotic. We've been improvising. I don't know much about whether the procedures and policies that they've been taking are effective or not. But from what I read around, absolutely no one is happy. So
But
some people are calling for a full lockdown.
you
You know,
mean
the
in other
thing.
countries, or you
No,
mean
no, no,
in
no.
Lebanon?
Even in Lebanon, particularly, it's so the entire point is, yes. Sometimes we end up discussing the vaccine itself and whether it's effective and whether it has side effects. But before we even discuss that, I mean, as a country here in Lebanon, we need to think about whether how like you can start discussing the effectiveness once you actually have the vaccine here. It's
Yeah, let's not
we might
start
not
the
even
house
be
by the
able to
roof,
yeah,
like we
building
say.
exactly. It's like we end up discussing things and everyone gets riled up and angry, and you see all this back and forth, and people start accusing celebrities of being a bad influence, and then you have the others. And I'm using this now because we'll get to Feyerabend eventually, and
Ah, yeah.
we can come back to these examples. So it's all messed up. But yeah, on so you have some people who are calling for a full, absolute full lockdown to control the spread of the virus, and other people are saying, well, but we need a safety net for people who cannot afford to close down. So it's this eternal struggle to try to cater to absolutely everyone, to try to get people to those who depend on a per diem or like on making their on a daily basis, kind of they earn their living. We're basically fucked because we're broke. We don't have like socially economically we're fucked, and then on top of everything we have a pandemic. So it's a bit tricky. So yeah,
Well,
I,
that's the thing. Like for instance, here it's I'm obviously not at Lebanon. Uh, in Spain, up until today, and maybe we'll come to that later, where there was like Trump protesters storming into the Capitol. It has been like for months, 80% of the news coverage on COVID. You know,
yeah,
um, then when in your country there is actually other stuff going on. There are changes in government. There is like a major financial crisis. What is the place that COVID has? Is it like just another issue, or is it the issue also? Is it the central issue, and then financial crisis goes like a bit on the second, on the background, or how, like, or it depends,
It's
or
it's a bit of it's a bit of everything basically. So again, at all because I don't follow the news. I don't read news, and I've muted more than half of Lebanese journalists and absolutely anyone who talks about Lebanese news. So the very few information, some of the information that I have is, you have some maybe different categories. Some people are worried about all of these issues. Other people are more worried about the financial crisis. Other people are more worried about the political crisis. Other people are worried about the corona and health crisis. So it's
okay,
it's
but
like it's a mix of yeah.
if it's like you say, then corona is just another topic among
It's
a
just
series
another
of
topic.
problems.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
it's
We we
it's not.
are we are fucked on absolutely all levels. It's like
Hmm.
there is no
I,
silver
I
lining
I
there. There
wonder
is.
what's the effect for the mental health of that. I mean, if it's better to be fucked at many levels or just at one,
Whew.
Is it?
Yeah, it's something we discussed in the online courses. I don't know if you've been like if I discussed that during philosophy of religion, but then before I was asking this question, I think during bioethics particularly, because we were talking about masks and people worrying about corona or not, and I asked the question. We were talking about how people were dealing with the situation in Lebanon, and someone pointed out that, well, after all these crises and after facing all these crises and problems, people got to a point whereby, or many people in Lebanon at least, got to a point whereby Corona is just another problem that
Hmm.
they have to deal with. So they are already overwhelmed with so many other issues that this seems to be just yet another problem, right?
Well,
So this is why many at least in Lebanon had like you see many people with this attitude of, well, there's nothing much we can do, right? It's we're already
yeah, yeah.
overwhelmed and we feel just uh,
Yes, you said in the course something that I remember, and just like I recall that. Um, I think it was on the last session when you were talking about against the gods or something. I said people in Lebanon being more fatalistic in the sense that the way you would put the thesis of the book was gods are like a hedge, and you take a leap of faith that whatever action you will do, gods will be on your side and then will protect you. And then taking a bit to the extreme, like it's like when you go out to the street and just to have another day or whatever, then you assume that that will be safe because I mean gods are on your side, and even or if they are not, then it's God's will. And you said like that there were like some guys that had this fatalistic outlook so embedded, so that they fail even to act in the sense of putting a mask and that kind of thing, because I mean if I have to get corona, then it's inshallah, and we will get over it or not, and then if we die, then we will meet up there,
yep.
right? And
Yep,
maybe I'm
some
putting like
people do
a
have
simple.
that mentality, yeah. And the issue becomes whether, well, the principle of doing no harm, then if you don't care about yourself, the problem with like wearing a mask is not only to protect yourself, it's also to protect others. So they
Absolutely.
fail to recognize that aspect of doing no harm sometimes. But yeah, more so than whether it's only God's will or not, it's just the idea that you get to a point whereby you really are fed up with It's like, think about it this way. And from a, yeah, I'm watching Blacklist now, so just images keep coming to my mind. But it's this, you've it's think about it this way. You've lost your job, and you've lost your house, kind of. You cannot pay rent anymore, and now you end up homeless. And um, on top of everything else, well, within the Lebanese context, you have an explosion in between, and then you end up literally with absolutely nothing. So, on add to it Corona. So they're like, just the hell with it. I don't like, yeah.
Well, should say that, first, about the fatalistic outlook. I think that it is a negative thing when you say like you fail to act for the health of others, and then that's a bad thing. But I would say, like, when I was saying about mental health, the first months, it's also the situation changes, and I think that you cannot span your attention over one topic over so much without being autistic or something. But this is, at the beginning, was pretty much obsessed about the virus.
Oh yeah.
Well, like pretty much everyone else, but and very early, when we were like in the first lockdown in March, I did a podcast that it didn't go out well because of technical reasons. I didn't record the podcast well, but I did a podcast with George Nasser from
Oh, you
Twitter, and
did?
I did, and I did, but I didn't publish. I just did the transcript because the sound was not good, and I was interrupting him and whatever. But he told me, like, that he had lived through the Lebanese civil war, and that he saw me, like, me too agitated about the virus. And you say, like, at the end, I was he was telling me, I was a kid when there was a civil war, and you would go to school every day, and you didn't know if you will get shot. Because there were snipers on the, and still you went to school, a bit like what you are saying. It's like, and you take this a bit of a fatalistic attitude, and life has to keep going, right? And I say, like, now I'm a bit more fatalistic. Basically, also, I've come to understand that anything I say or do will not change anything about the outcome. It may do for me, but I already take the necessary precautions, and just keep thinking about it. It's not only boring, but it's probably not good for your mental health. So she's like, I see the good aspect of it, in the sense that you take a bit of perspective that you also
Yeah.
get by having many other problems to care about, and the not so good perspective of the fatalistic outlook by failing to take precautions that may affect others. But it's, yeah, it's
Yes, and I'm looking uh, for something with regards to what you're saying.
see, and the thing is
People
also,
are unable to
Mahmoud,
control or
that
change. So this is
I
kind of what they call. I've seen it now 4 times on Lebanese Twitter. Learned helplessness. So it's kind of, and as the definition here says, is a state that occurs after a person has experienced a stressful situation repeatedly. They come to believe that they are unable to control or change the situation, so they do not try even when opportunities for change become available.
mm,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So it may even get too far that you fail to grasp opportunities, or think that you can control master your destiny, and that sort of thing as well. Of course.
Yeah, so the question becomes, in relation to what George Nasser would say, what I would say, and what you are saying now is, to what extent would you stop taking any action because you know that anything you would do is not going to be changing anything, versus when would you start adapting? Because many people are saying, or many people said about us within here, like, same as now. Bani will say, I always mention Argentina. Well, it's the same example. It's like people after an economic crisis, for example, instead of trying to solve it, when they become more helpless, and eventually they start adapting. So you don't overcome the crisis. They've been 20 years struggling with it. They
Yeah,
never actually overcame it. They just adapted with it. So you
but
have
they adapted
inflation of
extremely
30%.
sophisticated mechanisms. No, I mean
That's,
my
but is it a good or a
brother-in-law
bad thing?
is Argentinian as well. I told you, and I mean I've been there once and met his family and friends and so on, and everyone saves in US dollars. And now they are like among the early adopters of Bitcoin, probably also the case in Lebanon. Um, well, uh, also people live on credit, but then inflation, it's also the credits. And it's like I have the impression, that after all, it's like a very weird world and ecosystem, but just people adapt to it and even thrive to some
Yeah.
to
So,
some at some level, considering the situation, that I mean, that savings can go away. Like people hide savings in several places in the house and things like that, and sometimes people break in the house and then they manage to find some of the places where the money is placed, but not the others. I don't know. I find it very, very interesting, the way that
yeah.
people adapt, as you say.
But the question is, or the point is, many people find that as something which is disturbing in a way, because you only have people who adapt in a way, and or more people who start adapting to the situation, and less people who are trying to tackle the situation or try to change. Like, why? So to give you an example, and a concrete example in Lebanon, and without mentioning the clientelism behind it, and the different interests many different groups have within this uh, situation. But think in terms of electricity. We still have power cuts here. So instead of protesting or trying to get the government to, to tackle the situation, to not, or to find some sort of solution to have 24/7 electricity, we adapt to it. And so we start buying, let's say, generators or power generators here and there. And then you start having, different clusters and different people who come in with wanting to sell generators. And then this
And
guy
you
knows
connect to
that guy,
your
etc.,
neighbor's
etc.
generator or
Yeah.
whatever if
So,
you're
but
new
the
to.
idea here is, without getting too much into these details, is instead of trying to resolve the situation, we adapt. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but I know for sure that I would rather live in a place where I don't have to worry about power, electricity.
Hmm. Well, it's like I consider sometimes myself privileged in the sense that that I was spending every summer in my grandparents' house, my grandmother's house in Malaga. It's just like so to say more most impoverished area of Spain in the 80s. There were there were all the time there were um, water cuts constantly, for years. And people adapted that they had reservoirs at home, as you say. It was like kind of third world situation, and it was very third world kind of setting. Okay, so people had livestock in houses and things like that that you don't see anymore. And
Yeah.
that really, like, I only see that kind of thing now when I travel to other countries, and even there, it does not exist anymore. So it's still like an impoverished area, but the standards that they had in the early 80s, they were really like today's Uzbekistan, so to say. And why I'm saying this. I think that this, I mean, personally, and that may sound a bit like a privileged person saying this or something. I think that these things don't matter that much. It's like at some level that you have
What
power
things?
cuts. I mean, yeah, it will like it will prevent some industries to set up in the country and things like that and so on. But for the life of people, they just adapt to power cuts and it's like. Uh, I think there is a big leap between not having electricity and having electricity, and having electricity 24/7 probably is just a bit of a marginal leap or something. This is I mean that we were saying Argentina. I think that Argentina, is it a third world country or is it not? I don't know. I don't care. Some Argentinians think that it is. Some Argentinians think it isn't. Uh, are
Yeah.
Argentinians like more miserable than Spaniards?
See, but this is the thing. It has it. On the one hand, we can easily talk about whether they are miserable or more miserable or happier, or who's happier or whose quality of life is better, and that's also something that ties back to Paul Feyerabend. But um, take my example. If there's no electricity, I am fucked.
Well, your business, yeah. Now your business model, uh,
Yeah.
you have batteries, though? Like the
But see,
internet will
this is the
go.
thing.
The internet will go
Uh,
as well, right?
yeah,
With electricity.
yeah.
Okay,
But
then
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 I
then
have
that
a
starts to be like a fucking situation. I have to admit.
but because of that, so this is the thing. It has nothing to do with like I adapted at one point because during summer, was it August or September? I forgot. September, I think. I was giving an ancient philosophy course at 3 a.m.
For Asia,
And hmm?
for America, or,
for
like
for America,
for
yeah.
America.
Yeah, basically people in the US. I had 5 participants, so it was a good course. But the thing was that I was giving the course twice a week for a month, for 4 weeks basically, and from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. they would we would have no electricity. So I had to adapt, of course. I had to adapt, of course. Like, do I have to go through all this? And then it was so hot. I had and there's no electricity, so you don't have an air conditioning on, and I didn't have a fan or anything of the sort. So it was the first session. Like, think that luckily those who registered with me had already taken a course before. But in put yourself in my situation, and you're sweating, you feel like shit. It's 3 a.m. and and the internet is like, luckily there's internet, but then there are no lights, and you're on your you have your phone's light on, etc. And you're really uncomfortable, and you're trying to explain pre-Socratics.
Mm.
It was a fucked up experience. So so yeah, it's so this is like, it has nothing to do with if my livelihood or business, between brackets, did not depend on such a thing. I couldn't care less, because 6 hours without electricity, yeah, who cares?
Hmm.
Right? But then the problem is, these things have become more of a necessity because of the opportunities that you have. So it's something I actually or this issue, I thought about this issue, and it was brought up to me by some people. And we had this issue here in Lebanon during Corona. So should we close schools or not? Okay, we close schools, but how would you cater to those who don't have proper internet, who don't have electricity, or who don't even have a laptop?
Hmm.
So some people don't even have laptops,
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Even
Uh,
here, even here, of
yeah.
course. Yeah.
So that's so. is this a necessity? Is this not? Should you incorporate that as who's going to be paying for it? How will you be addressing these issues? How are you going to be ensuring like uh, this kind of proper equality, not the kind of shitty one where people are complaining about shitty stuff, you know?
Hmm. No, was maybe saying this lightly, and also I've not lived in my grandmother's uh, village. I've been there on holidays, so that's a different experience. But yeah, anyway.
No, but and sorry for interrupting again, because I heard this is something Joe Rogan brought up on one of his podcasts. It's like it's not a matter. It shouldn't be a matter of victimology, who is more privileged or who is less privileged. It's just the idea that we need to understand that your condition now is much different than my condition now, but then it's like both are equally in a way valid. So he was talking about his daughter, and I forgot exactly what, or she was fighting with her sister over candy, Halloween candy, and she went berserk, like, because her sister took her candy, and it's like her world fell apart, right? And if you and he was saying, well, he grew up in a situation that was very different, and up to a certain point, he was thinking to himself, why would someone go nuts over losing their candy to someone else, right? And he started thinking to himself, well, because she did not experience something different. So for her, this is, between brackets, something horrible, right?
Hmm.
So there are different levels of shit going on, and everyone is dealing with their shit in a
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
So what for you might seem an interesting or a curious experience might be something that I am fed up with, because it's been repetitive for the past
Yeah,
X
yeah, no,
amount of
of
years,
course, it's
right? So
a
it's
exposure to it. So yeah, I've not
yeah,
experienced. There have been power cuts in Barcelona. I remember one. Like, I mean, I think it would be year 2006 or 2007. It was like, too many aircon new appliances into the grid, and paf, some
yeah,
semi-station broken, and it was in the office, and people with generators, and seven people in like a one small office, and that kind of situation. It was not particularly funny, but it was more this not about like defending power cuts or anything like that. It's more like questioning like the arc of progress that I was. But
yeah.
anyway, I'm just a divergent in the sense that are we better off than our grandparents, and that kind of thing. It's and I think there is an arc of, yes, we are better off in some significant ways, but in terms of like, are we more satisfied or that kind of thing? I don't think we are. This is
That's Feyerabend's argument, by the way. It's
oh,
like
but anyway, I've read a little of Feyerabend, but not so much. So maybe, I mean, it's going to be more hectic even that I had thought, but maybe we can get there. So uh,
yeah, but
oh,
they but this so but and again, I want to go back to this, because the the problem is that people look at it as something, I myself included, or to try to do some sort of self-criticism in this sense. Like, I don't understand people who come to Lebanon from abroad and they enjoy the mess that we are living in, right? So I would you came to Lebanon. I think you found it maybe up to a certain point even charming. Maybe, I don't know. We haven't
no,
spoken about this.
I understand what you say. I mean, I understand the people like. Let's say someone that I know, we both know, like Natalia Sanchez, the reporter of El País, the correspondent that goes
Yeah,
to Lebanon, and kind of her life becomes more exciting. That
it's an
when she was
adventure,
in whatever
exactly.
in
And I
Salamanca or what
understand
something
that.
like.
Yeah,
I
I
understand that.
understand
Well,
that.
let's say I understand, and even I would say like, and Lebanon seems like a perfect in that if you have that mentality that you like adventure a little but not too much, okay? Because I mean, I'm maybe going to territory, but there are people that join ISIS. Okay, so, there are people that there was a lady like that joined. A Dutch lady, I remember this story that made it like 8 or 7 years ago, big into the press, like a Dutch lady that had joined El Frente de Liberación Zapatista or something like that, or I don't know if it was Mexico or Colombia, one of those groups,
Yeah,
and she was like also very attractive young lady, it's not like a desperate or kind of person or something like that, with a good educational background. It's like sometimes people. mm, Facing obstacles just to make their lives slightly more interesting, and
yeah, yeah,
there like I can understand that, and I can sympathize a little bit with that, even
yeah.
if
But it used to make me furious, particularly when I hear internationals in Lebanon, uh, either tourists or people who decide to spend a year or two or to work in Lebanon. It drives me crazy because I like like you can be much better off at other places. Why the fuck come here, right?
Mm,
And then, but now come to think about it, like maybe if I were in your position, like if I were a Spaniard with a Spanish passport, I would, like, I think about it, why not come here for 2 3 years? It's actually an interesting experience, right? So it's the experiences that each and everyone is seeking at one particular moment. But then what I understood, or what I, after thinking about it, what is it that actually bothers me about this attitude is when they start trying to convince you that this is great.
mm.
So like it, and it goes both ways. So
Well,
me
probably
telling
they
you that, for
convince
example,
themselves, and they feel the
yes,
need to convince you,
yeah, it's
and
like they're like, Lebanon is great. You just don't see it. It's charming. Well, yeah, and Spain is great, and it's charming. You
well,
just don't see it, right?
I maybe told you I have like Airbnbs, and
Oh,
Airbnbs.
Airbnb. Yeah, yeah.
I rent apartments. I mean that's my like retirement
So
plan.
what does Dan Vasallo call it? The portfolios of small bets.
Yeah, well, it's not even a bet. It's like whatever. Like I mean, the innovation layer is putting it on Airbnb instead of renting it normally. It's like whatever like middle class Spaniard that can afford it does. It's okay. So I don't pretend that this
No,
is.
but you've ventured out into other countries as well. If I'm not mistaken, like you have Airbnbs not only in Spain.
I had one in Naples. Then it was not working well, especially with the pandemic like collapsed that it was not working very well. I rented it to I rented it to a musician, and now the musician is leaving in April. He sent me like just a letter,
Okay,
So anyway, so I
that's
may go back to Airbnb depending on how the situation
yeah.
goes
It
in
still is
April.
a bet.
Well, anyway, I bought that apartment, and it was a bit like almost like it was a bit like what you are saying. I think like I saw like a bit of a business opportunity, but I also like Naples so much that I wanted to be linked to Naples in a way. And it's like the way that I thought like that seemed obvious is it was doing this, and I bought that apartment, and then I started renting it in Airbnb. But okay. Now the thing is that people that I'm seeing now is like it used to be like people going on weekends and things like that. Now the people that are renting those is more like people that want to do like a lifestyle change, and there's like an American that comes to Barcelona for 6 months to learn Spanish or something like that, and he's a bit enamored or like in love with Spain and every Spanish staff and so on, like that it is better here than in America or that kind of thing, and it's I, I can understand a bit what you say, like, and then it's like it will, and sometimes they will try to explain, and they say like, I have the impression that they are, or sell it to you, why is it better here, and I think it's more like they are trying to sell it to themselves. You have make all this investment, you have left whatever, a job or a husband in the United States to come to Europe for 6 months, for 1 year, or whatever, find yourself, or learn to speak Spanish, or learn to cook, or something like that. It's a big, this film of Julia Roberts, Eat, Pray, Love. I think that there are many people like that, that they want to live that kind of experience, and they come here, and they have this sort of American stereotype idea of the place, which is partly true and partly like a pure fabrication. But if that makes them happy, yeah, why not? And some of the stereotypes may string like a bell, like, there may be some truth on them. So yeah.
Yeah, especially when you go when you live touristy kind of life. So you can go to Madrid or Salamanca.
Mhm.
I've been to Barcelona, but I've only been 3 times, so I don't know Barcelona that much. But the idea is, yeah, I can imagine someone living
Well,
a touristy kind of, foreigner life in Salamanca, where you go to certain kinds of bars, you meet
yeah,
certain
no,
kinds of people, and you have this charming kind of
it's
lifestyle,
it's
and that's basically it,
I
right? And
do
then
it
you have the other
myself.
person who's grinding all day long, and then they come back and they're like, "Fuck you guys, you're just, you know."
I mean, so the thing is that I'm just telling you this. I do it myself. Whenever I have an opportunity, I go to southern Italy, and I just, I mean, it's not. I know it's not so different from Spain, but it's just slightly less boring, in the sense that I know it slightly less. I don't know people there, so I have to meet new people. It's new cities, and I don't know. It changes. So even if it's at the very basic level, it is a new experience. Anyway,
Yeah.
Paul Feyerabend. Okay, I read Sardonically Speaking, and there's a lot of things about you that uh, I discovered there, and Paul Feyerabend, which um, I happen to know the existence of Paul Feyerabend by following your tweets. This is from time to time you will do a tweet. Then I've checked Paul Feyerabend. He's quoted in the chart, I think, twice or something like that. Not much, but that means that Taleb. Let me just recap, if someone is going to see this and they don't know what this is. Um,
Where just a sec, he quoted twice where?
I think in a Skin in the Game,
By
and then
Nassim, you mean?
by bibliography, or I think once, it's a footnote in the in the bibliography, or in the references, and then there is like a quotation of Feyerabend, like very brief, I think in the Skin in the Game and Anti-Fragile, I would say, but by Nassim. Now the thing is that how we met, you and I, it's just for someone seeing this, we like Taleb's tweets, and like Taleb's work, so just out of this converging interest, I think we connected on Twitter. I follow you, or you follow me, or and we had some conversations, and I happened to go to Beirut for a week, like just to know the place, and then we will meet there. And I still remember the first time we met in a bar. We would spend 6 hours together speaking Nassim Taleb's works. I kept the record of time. It's not an overstatement. It was really 6 hours. Today will be shorter. And yeah, so this is and then in your tweet feed from time to time you have put some quotes of Paul Feyerabend that I didn't know he existed. Then when you were quoting him, I would assume that he was like a very important philosopher that anyone who has like a philosophy degree would have heard about. But then in sardonically speaking, you explained that actually you stamped into Paul Feyerabend by sheer happenstance, in that you were downloading ebooks and you saw a book that was called Killing Time, the autobiography of Paul Feyerabend. You kind of found that it's maybe interesting, then you download it, you read it, and you find it fascinating stuff, and then you started reading Paul Feyerabend.
Yes, and actually, I bought a physical copy. I did not download it. I ordered it from Amazon. I was in Spain, and Amazon Spain had they had recently opened or something, I think. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's long story short. I ordered an actual physical copy.
Well,
I
for
didn't
for
even know what
those
it was
for those who don't
about.
know, is also I would like to say that that Mahmoud speaks perfect Spanish. You spent like a couple of years in Salamanca. Um,
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years. Okay, so
Yeah.
you did your master's degree there.
Yep.
Uh, I think you speak Spanish probably better than I do, and
Nope.
and we are
Nope.
only doing this in English because we assume that, I mean, maybe some of you don't speak Spanish, and if you want to follow this, and okay, and so I read. I found some of the quotes that you were putting on Twitter of Feyerabend fascinating, because like this is something that Taleb could have written. So I didn't know
Yeah.
that Taleb had read Feyerabend. I bought this small book. It's called ¿Por qué no Platón? Why not
A
Plato?
ver, otra vez. Uh,
¿Por qué no Platón?
Feyerabend, yeah, 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 yeah.
It's why not Plato? It's like a collection of speeches he would do, like courses and things like that. So I read that. I found it very interesting, and yeah, and yeah, it's straight activity. There is a lot of in there that I can relate to what Taleb has written about, and then I found it fascinating kind of discovery, and also that the fact that he's not so mainstream. It's like I mean, I assume like you tweeting about him is like any philosopher. Undergraduate knows about Paul Feyerabend, but maybe this is not the case, is it?
Nope,
Yeah.
because he is mistakenly accused of being anti-science.
Yeah, well, I
Yep.
mean, okay, I didn't know that, but he's a philosopher of science. Like, he was actually also I've read also wiki and so on. So he was he was studying with Karl Popper. So
Yep.
actually, it's even very interesting. He got like an undergrad scholarship to study with Ludwig Wittgenstein, and when he was moving to I think it was Oxford, then or Cambridge probably. Then Wittgenstein died, and then he didn't have like a mentor, and then he happened to study with Popper, who was the director of his PhD, I guess. I don't know how you say director, or how you say that?
Advisor, and also by mistake, like people told him, and this is how he characterizes his life, the chances, accidents, mistakes, and things. So he's like an embodiment of the Nassim Talibian flaneur kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So he didn't even think about publishing or defending a PhD thesis. He had a few, according to him, of course. Maybe the guy
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is the thing about him, you
No,
know.
let's
He's
assume.
very rigorous, but at the same time, he's a trickster in a way.
Well,
But
okay.
seriously, he put together certain. He had things written already published. He just got them together, and he compiled them, and he defended the thesis. So it wasn't even something that was planned in a way,
Hmm.
and that's interesting to also keep in mind his life's trajectory and the things that he did. He was at first studying physics, then he wanted to study history, and then eventually he decided to
Well,
study
and
philosophy.
actually, he also, when he decided to go and do whatever PhD in philosophy with Ludwig Wittgenstein, he had been admitted to. I mean, it's in this book. Huh? I'm pretty sure that it's also in the autobiography. He had been admitted to Bertolt Brecht troops, and to become an actor in his company, and more or less he says, and that's and probably it's heartfelt, and he means that fact his life. I mean, he could have been an actor or an artist, and then he became only a philosopher, something like that, right?
Yep.
And I don't think that. I mean, I think he really means it when he says that. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
and uh, and there, well, it seems that he first was like a strict Popperian, and then fall out. I don't know the details with Popper, and he developed his own philosophy of science.
Yep.
I downloaded the against the method, or how
Against method, yes.
against method. I started reading, and then he says that actually the idea of the book was given to him to Imre Lakatos. I knew that Imre Lakatos existed, even if I'm not very acquainted to his work, but they were good friends, and Imre Lakatos told him, like, hey, you have so out of the box and peculiar ideas, you should write about them, and then I will write like the counter argumentation. And then he wrote the first part, and he published it, but then that's in the forward of Against Method. Imre Lakatos died, and there was never the chance for him to get the reply he was I mean, the whole project was about. And I think he got very harsh critiques for his book Against the Method, and he didn't take it very well. But anyway, eventually
He did take it very well because
he
this is
did.
what he did. Like he couldn't, like, he couldn't care less. Let's put it this way, in the sense that if he didn't take it well, it's because people did not get what he was trying to say. Because, as I said, many people accuse him of being anti-science when, in fact, he is not.
Hmm.
So this is why he tried to poke at people and poke at scientists, and picked feuds with scientists across the globe. You know, he was constantly trash talking and shit talking and calling people names, etc. Because this was part of what he did. Because otherwise, like, yeah, it's his way of, like, if he had, let's put it this way, if he had a Twitter account now, he would be very fun to follow.
Absolutely. Well, there are
Yeah,
so many of
yeah,
those, but he is definitely one. And
yeah.
okay, let me see. I didn't take notes, so, I'm regretting it. But in this book, uh, why not Plato? That is like some conference, a compilation of some conference. For instance, something he writes. Well, first he defines himself as an anarchist,
Mm-hmm.
and he said like it was the tag that Imre Lakatos put on him, and he like instead of trying to fight it, he kind of embraced it. Now, okay, this is and I could also embrace that kind of tag as Feyerabend, but then as I read the book, I don't have the impression that he's a real anarchist. You know, it's just like I mean, okay, so it's like because there are guys, some guy that I was reading, and I don't think he was a real anarchist either, but he pretended, so to say, to be one. Is David Graeber. I don't know. Have you read?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I haven't, but he's on my list.
He's very good. He defined himself as an anarchist, and he was going to northern Syria, to see like a Rojava state and things like that, like really like a, if this was going to be a model for others to follow and like of a new society. I mean, and he was not cynical about it, but then okay, anyway, I
No, no,
when
but
I
this, yeah.
well, when I read about Paul Feyerabend, and he says things that are extremely out of the box regarding mainstream, but he says that at the same time is like okay, so that if if the electors of whatever county they don't want to teach Darwin in their county, because they believe in intelligent design, and that's like he said like the democratic decision to do so is met, that they don't want to study Darwin, they want to study intelligent design. Then who are you to impose them like by non-democratic methods, that there is like whatever true science and there is like incorrect ways of thinking. No, yes, I'm making it very small, but no, I'm making it very simple. The point is that for me he seems to be like an extreme, like he wants to push democracy to the extreme, so to say, and into self-determination, rather than a real anarchist. He doesn't seem to me to be cynical about democracy, or in not so much as if he really believes in like in democracy, democratic mechanisms to for governance and so on. So I mean, I think he embraces the anarchist tag, but what I read is like he would probably feel comfortable in a country like Switzerland, where like people can exert self-determination to a great
See,
degree.
but this is up to a certain point, and you can perhaps understand anarchy in that sense. One kind of definition maybe that you have a direct form of governance, so it's the people are deciding, and they are deciding based on a very categorically decentralized system where people really decide, and not so anarchy in the sense maybe that there is no one government, central government that is deciding for the people. It's the other. It's genuinely the other way around, because in representative systems, form of governance, when you elect, uh, whomever, a president or members of the parliament, they end up deciding for you in a way. Whereas in Switzerland, it's really direct. They cannot do anything without the people agreeing on it.
Well,
So
it's
maybe
more like people can fact politicians up or their agenda. They cannot control that. People have like sort of veto power, and
they
they
do
exert it, and
exactly.
and then they cannot control the agenda. They government may want to join the European Union, but then the people don't want that, and they screw, like they constitutionally they have the right, if they collect 60,000 signatures or
Or
something, to
100,000 or
to do
something like that. A
a,
referendum.
a referendum on that particular topic, and the referendum has to be a binding one. and then people vote in a referendum, and many times they just screw the plans of the government over, so
Yeah, so it's in a way maybe like the reason why I'm mentioning this, because it's so yeah, maybe what we understand by anarchy, or maybe what some people understand by anarchy is basically this ideal kind of no government, nothing, anything goes, and everything maybe is just relative, etc. So no, of course this is not what Feyerabend would want, or anyone for that matter. It's just the idea that um, if we are going to be talking about it from a political perspective, then at least people have to be, or the government or those in power have to be challenged on the one hand. On the other hand, he's more of an anarchist in an epistemological sense.
okay. Yeah,
So this
maybe I
is
missed a bit that angle, even if I mean
so this is his criticism. So his criticism of the way science was being done back in the day, at least, and we have to keep that into consideration. The setting within which things within which Feyerabend is or with which he is or within which he's writing and dealing and etc. It's he was a bit wary of uh, science becoming all too dogmatic, where it became patronizing and authoritarian.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is particular. So it's not or not even epistemologically. Sorry, it's morally in a way. It's
Hmm.
in the sense that he did not his skepticism was not so much about whether science worked, whether science could find things, whether that science is basically effective up to a certain point. It was with how people use and scientists and governments, etc., use science to impose a certain view or a certain whatever. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely. This is
yeah,
like, I mean, may not be very eloquent, but like he would give like parallels of, say, that there is no real choice in the sense that people are presumed to want like a science and scientific outlook or something like that over even if democratically they are not interested in science, and there is like an aspect of it totalitarian about the fact that science is presumed to be the good option. He gives somehow a parallel like with colonial times, and he would say things like, for instance, I'm not sure he speaks about the Spanish colonialism in the Americas. I think he does, but he says that they were less cynical in the sense that they will impose, like Spaniards going to the Americas or to the Philippines, they would impose their worldview, but they did not pretend that the other had a choice. And it's like say that right now
yeah,
we have like this kind of I mean, allegedly people are choosing science, but he says that it might not be right the case, and it's more like a mental colonialism. And he doesn't say this mental colonialism, I'm saying this, but it's like people are not given the choice. They are like supposed to prefer science and scientific outlook of other options, and there's like an anecdote, but it really tells you about the character of the person, and it really is find it easy to sympathize with him. It's like he was a professor in Berkeley. I don't know, year 60s, 68 or something like that,
yeah,
and he had like a group of
until
hungry.
the late 80s.
Okay, then he moved to Switzerland, I think.
No, no,
And
he taught at both at the same time. He taught at the
simultaneously.
ETH Zurich simultaneously, Berkeley, and Auckland.
Okay. Well, he explains in one of these conferences that he was a teacher of philosophy in Berkeley, and then there were like a group of interns that were coming from an Indian reservation. I don't know, they were Indian Hopis or Pueblo or something like that. And then he was like, I mean, he said like, I had this group of students in front of me, it was like out of the reservation with their own practices, culture, whatever. And it's like, and I was supposed to tell them like how to think properly, right? It's like, and he tells like, I was like asking myself, who the fuck am I to tell these people how to think, right? And it's like the other professors, they were not asking themselves this question. It's like they were like, again, not questioning the fact that these guys had got an internship and then they will get like a better start of life just because they would get a Berkeley degree, and that it was a great thing that they were there in the university being taught. And but he had, and then it's like, and then I think, I don't know if it was after that or before, but he studied the Hopi Indians and their culture, a lot of it, and then he found like very interesting things. And it's like, I don't know, it's like, okay, maybe, he, as you were saying, it's not like he didn't consider that science could be effective or something. It's like, hey, they are better like treating mental health issues, or they don't have them because they have like ancestral practices or something like that, but we can learn something from that, right?
Yep.
And
And so one of the things that he would point out is that there is no scientific method, and this is where his anarchy comes in as well. So epistemologically, I repeat, it's not that he was anarchist epistemologically. I messed up at the first time, and so science does work because you see the results and things work. But the idea is that for him, let's not just uh, uh, what's the word, apotheosize the scientific method. Let's not become dogmatic about it because there is no the method.
yeah,
It's not a method with a hammer and nails. It's an entire toolbox, and it's so there
yeah, and
are
it's
so
like,
many tools at our disposal that we can use in order to figure things out. So it's not that
and
this is the method. So in a way he's not monotheistic about science, the scientific method. He's like, let's be humble, and let's admit that there is no one method. There are several. It's just a tool, and this tool allows us to discover things.
well, I've not completed the reading of Against Method, but if and then you correct me if I'm wrong, but I have the impression from these talks that I've read that actually it's like he contests the scientific method a bit as a fiction, and that a lot of these discoveries were serendipitous, and it's something
Yep,
that it's on Nassim Taleb's books as well. Like,
exactly.
I mean, the Wright brothers were like actually bike manufacturers or something like that. They did not know anything about science, and it's many times, like scientific rationale coming afterwards, and that these discoveries were not really following a real method. And he also, I mean, he writes against experts, which is also something that you see in Taleb, and like how experts also have like kill language, more or less, he says, and it's like it resonates a chord. And I mean, he said like the peak of philosophy of science was Galileo, and that Galileo is fun to read, and that he is like a writer, and he uses like human language, and that he's a scientist at the same time as he's doing science. He's thinking about the scientific process itself, and he writes in a way that it is entertaining, and you have characters or something like that. Is that now this has become like unacceptable, and he's quite harsh I've seen on Newton, in that he thinks that even if Newton is still like was kind of pleasant to read, that he entertains this fiction that science has to follow like a method, that it has to follow like an experimentation, deduction, and then matching the experimentation with, and that it's not really the way science works, but everyone is pretending that this is the way it should go. And that right now, like when you read an academic paper, it's almost non-readable because all the humanity has been striking took out of it, and that does not have anything
Yeah,
to do with
because
science.
it has to. Yeah, yeah. So this is what he was also fighting against. And because if you or let's put it this way, there is maybe the strict, dry scientific data that they might, or scientific papers that they might write. But then the idea is, it's not that this is maybe wrong, or they shouldn't do that. They have to do that at one point or the other for other scientists to understand, or to try to talk with each other. But the idea is, what has been lacking is the part where these scientists try to debate their findings in the public sphere, kind of thing, much like Einstein and these scientists were doing with relativity and the new discoveries of physics and chemistry and the likes, right? So it 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 doesn't matter. So you put this data and information available for those who want to try to challenge them, or to try to repeat the experiments, etc., to make sure that it is they can reproduce it, etc. But we there is no philosophy of science proper anymore, because everyone is because scientists now don't talk about these issues.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Einstein, and that he makes the point like Einstein was like a patent examiner at Zurich or something like that. That the dilettante is superior to the expert, and then he wrote like a entire conference of that, and he's like, I actually, it's like all these discoveries are made by people that think out of the box, and it's like the expert is by definition someone who thinks inside the box.
Inside the box, exactly. And not only that, he was motivated by his own, by a concrete kind of personal curiosity, like Feynman as well.
Hmm.
uh, Without much romanticizing, romanticizing much this kind of aspect of science. But ultimately, um, what Feyerabend would be criticizing is, um why are you doing the things that you're doing? Are you trying to solve an issue? Are you trying to tackle an issue? And if is this motivated by some sort of personal curiosity, personal interest? Because if you don't even know what you're doing, it becomes just this kind of mechanical way of getting together. So because you're just following a method, it's like, um, that's something to think about as well. It's when you're just following a method that in a very mechanized manner, versus using the method as a tool to discover something, or to try to tackle an issue that is very relevant to you, or to the community, to the society, etc. Think in terms of, if you want to take it to take an analogy, maybe. Yeah, no, analogies now would be a bit tricky, but it's like doing things in a mechanized manner versus doing things because they solve some sort of an existential problem, right? And it's always, if you're doing it in a mechanistic manner, then you just need to fill this form, you need to get the grant, you need to get the data, and you need to just conclude whether the data is this means that your hypothesis is true or false,
Hmm.
and that's it. And
Hmm.
there's and and to read Feyerabend himself. Let me try to see if I can find the quote. Um, Here. In one of his interviews, my life has been the result of accidents, not of goals and principles. My intellectual work forms only an insignificant part of it. Love and personal understanding are much more important. Leading intellectuals with their zeal for objectivity kill these personal elements. They are criminals, not the liberators of mankind.
Yeah, I think we were having some connectivity issue.
I don't know if it's, but did you get the quote or not?
Um,
I'll repeat the quote for just in case. So
yeah.
he in one of his interviews he says, "My life has been the result of accidents, not of goals and principles. My intellectual work forms only an insignificant part of it. Love and personal understanding are much more important. Leading intellectuals with their zeal for objectivity kill these personal elements. They are criminals, not the liberators of mankind."
Well, that's something that comes also into your book. It's very good. Quote is that he had a full life, right? He had
Yeah.
lovers, he had friends, he had travel. He moved to from one country to the other. He was in the Wehrmacht during World War II. Then he moved to the States. Whatever, you know, he was really an interesting guy, right? And philosophy or academia, it was not like the center of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
It was a tool. Yeah, like he saw it as, he was having fun. He enjoyed doing that, but at the same time he didn't take shit from administration. And the an interesting anecdote here, or I do not mention it in the book, but my ex philosophy professor, I studied with him during my undergrad. I actually saw him as well yesterday. This is partly the reason why I postponed. He was his he took a class with him, and he was his co-supervisor, thesis supervisor, his PhD. So the stories that you get from so the stories that he discusses in his autobiography for Feyerabend, he was like that. So
you
in
say that
class,
you,
he
you
was
say
a
like
troll.
I like the man, you know, just by reading some of the anecdotes that you share in your book. That in Zurich he was earning so much money that he didn't know what to do with it, and then he would invite every student for dinner or things like that, you know.
Yep, yep. He couldn't. He like, yeah. In a way, it was fun. He enjoyed it. He went around. So, for example, in the case of um, at UC Berkeley, this my professor, they would invite him over to their parties, and he would show up sometimes. Not only that, he was a peculiar person, because he would be invited to conferences and then not show up. And sometimes he would invite people over, but then not open the door. So it's like the guy
Definitely.
was
I
a
mean,
bit weird, in a way.
I haven't read his autobiography. He had a sense of humor, right? Did he?
Yes, he did.
Because that's something also that you don't know. It's maybe they mean like literally everything they say, and they are not like. But that's also like, I mean, of your book, sardonically speaking. I think like you think like very central and well, I don't know, in the setting of the personality of someone, the fact that he can take like a ironic distance or sardonic distance and has a sense of humor. Is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's and mainly I so it's in retrospect and looking at people like Socrates, like Kierkegaard, like Schopenhauer, like even Nietzsche, and Feyerabend as someone who's more recent. You see these people like they have this laid back attitude, even if in the case of Socrates it got him killed. Let's say, even if in the case where Kierkegaard is a different case, but he was fascinated with Socratic irony, and then you have Feyerabend. So it's this challenging, and this is partly why he was wary or of adopting a dogmatic stance towards science, because you always constantly need to question yourself at the same time, and you can only question yourself if you have this sense of humor, or sense of whatever it is. Um,
yeah, and
it was cutting out. I wasn't sure you were
oh no
around,
no, I
so
I
yeah.
I I, I
So it's
copied.
yeah, because if you if you're all too uptight and dogmatic about anything, even if it works, this is the issue here. Even if it works, and you go around and you become authoritarian about it, it's there will be blood in a way.
Hmm.
and and this is the problem. So we take ourselves all too seriously. We're obsessed with
Yes,
trying to prove
thing that
ourselves right. And
I wonder. I understand what you say, but I say myself, I don't. I mean, I have the impression by reading your book that it is very central to you. Like, I mean, it's very important to cultivate a sense of humor, and I like sense of humor. I like people with sense of humor. Don't take me wrong, but if this is like a conflation, it's the fact that when people have a sense of humor, then they are
hmm.
also able to question themselves, which I mean, and
No, 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 no. Not sense of humor. So it's not in
okay,
a sense of humor and a sense of being funny. It's just in being the Socratic irony. This playfulness, this uh,
not
not
taking
taking
you
yourself too
seriously.
seriously. So, for example, because
Yeah.
now you have a PhD, you become a professor at a university, therefore you are an authority and you have to act this way. And so you wear the hat of the role that you are playing, right? And no, you're not defined by your titles. No, you're not defined by your whatever it is. It's just like chill, chill. Don't be too uptight in a
This
way.
is it that I was, after reading Feyerabend and the fact that he wanted to study with Wittgenstein and so on, I've been trying to read some Wittgenstein. Uh, okay,
Good luck with
and
that.
and there's the thing that I wondered if he had a sense of humor, because apparently, I mean, like people who met him firsthand, it's like he detested small talk. He didn't take any bullshit. He was like absolutely precise in every statement that he made, and it's like if then he would just shut up if he had not something significant to say, and that kind of thing, but taking a bit to the extreme. So that, I mean, if you read these kind of accounts of the character, like if he had no sense of humor, but at the same time he was extremely plastic in his thinking, so to say, right? He was a creative person and so on. So did he or didn't he have a sense of humor? I said like something I really don't
Yeah,
know.
see, this is the thing. It's not the sense of humor per se. It's not the comedic kind of sense of humor. It's just the idea that what you just said. If you like you even not taking any bullshit, but also not engaging in it, you're not taking yourself too seriously there, because many people end up like in a way. To give you an example, so some scholars spend ages, or you go to a party and or to a conference where they are discussing, it's as though the stakes are too high, right? And they get into fuse like, so they you end
Okay, yeah.
you are at risk of losing the bigger picture. In a way, it's
Well,
like your life are
that's
not defined by the conference you attend, or by
that's
proving
the
that
other
Plato
thing,
said this or that,
is that that you yourself in this book you say like I mean you have successfully transitioned out of academia. You are
there
still
there
halfway there. Okay, so
yeah.
you're still like you're still a professor part time, so to say, and then you have your gigs
No,
that
no,
you.
no, no. Professor part-time, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's I think when we met, you were in
Like I'm
American Lebanese
not affiliated any.
University, and then the whatever, and you were in two
AUB and
institutions,
LU. Yeah, I quit. So
both of
now
them.
I'm
But
not an academic
because
in
you
the.
were fired for one of them,
Yep,
right? And then you quit the other one.
yep,
That's it. Okay,
yep, yep.
okay. Then yes, you are out of academia, and
Okay, not successfully. Like I like.
well, I tell your story. Like you successfully transitioned out of academia, like an example. It's like more or less you managed to keep your lifestyle, or even probably improve it by the circumstance that Lebanese pound has gone down, and you get paid in dollars basically through PayPal or whatever, and then I tell you like your story as like an inspiring story of a guy who went out of academia. You say yourself like in your book, so I mean I don't have the quotation, but that people notice that you are like say more tranquil, or more like your spirit like since this has happened, like that you seem to, I mean, I don't know, that take a bitter.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
this
no,
okay,
it's
let me
not
put it some
people.
other way. I will
It's
tell it directly. Okay,
it's not the
it's
people who see me as such. Maybe I'm not sure if people perceive me as such. They still, some still think I am this bitter and angry at academia and whatnot. But the idea is, yeah, I'm less. I'm more tranquil now and less angry. Let's put it
yeah.
this way.
Well, I have this impression. Also, it's like, I mean, would you say first all this bullshit about like going to a conference or whatever lecture or congress, where these stakes of like stupid, well, no, let me remove the tag of about like very minor stakes about some metaphysical whatever point that no one is really interested on or something, and people taking it very seriously, and this and the competition and the rat race to get tenure and all these things that they were like driving you a bit crazy, and it's normal because it's like an unhealthy environment. And like I don't know, when we would meet or when we would talk, sometimes you would tell me about these things. I was not really interested. It's like I understand what you say, like, in the sense that it's an unhealthy environment. I have had my own kind of shit and then suffer my kind of unhealthy environments. But yeah, of course, you are completely right. It's unhealthy. It's not correct. You don't need to persuade me. I'm not even very interested. You're just having this friendly conversation, and also like certain characters like Abstract J that comes into your book or something like that would drive you nuts. And I think that this, like, you have, I mean, you would see in your Twitter feed that, and then that this will drive you very, very mad or something because people were not thinking properly, and that you don't care about it so much anymore. You have taken your distance, and yes, and like, I mean, I have the impression that you are better. You're better, like you have found a better equilibrium now. It's just,
Yep, yep.
and
It's
ironically, also, is for like you are moving to Canada sometime soon, and
Hopefully, fingers
it's
crossed.
it's maybe this move that you had intended to do for some time, and that now you'll got the visa and residence and so on. That now with this situation that you have found, that maybe you are better in Beirut than you will be in wherever you will land in Canada. But anyway, it's I think that as for the sake of the experience that you were saying before, that you can understand also people coming to Beirut, and like, okay, this is like spending sometimes some years there. It may be educational, even if you don't buy that it is better than whatever, that I'm sure that it will be a good experience for you. I hope so.
I'm not sure, but it's to use a frequently used term and within Talib circles. I don't know where this might be coming from originally, but I've reduced the noise.
Mm,
I've cut out the bullshit, or
yeah.
what I at least think was bullshit, because some people are cut out for academia, which and or whatever it is. Like it's so maybe they don't think it's bullshit, but when I say it's bullshit, I'm always referring to something as bullshit from my perspective, in the sense that I would not spend time pursuing that. Maybe other people enjoy and are thrilled by writing an academic philosophy paper and publishing it
But
in this
what
journal or
comes to
that.
your book, and you say
Yeah,
you hated it, and you hated yourself by being doing it, and fitting and trying to fit into the box, which didn't. I mean, it's like
yeah,
it was a
yeah.
kind of pretend game, right? So to say, I mean,
It was. I felt like an imposter, and it's true. So this is, but and I think it's important to clarify this again. It's so when because ultimately you have to articulate it in a way, right? And you articulate it in a way that sometimes come off as very categorical, or very strict, or an overgeneralization, of course. And that's what I say at the beginning. But then at the beginning of the book, but the idea here is, when I am labeling it as bullshit, I am not labeling it as absolutely bullshit. And this is always important to keep in mind. So I wouldn't. This is why when someone asks me about, or someone who's trying to figure out whether I would advise them to go into academia or not, I really don't know. So
mm,
if you like it, you
yeah.
will enjoy it,
Is
and you will have fun, and you will, like it's some people really thrive in that
Well,
environment.
this
It's great.
we need Mahmoud. We need a certain number of philosophy professors. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
society has demand for them, and
yeah.
it's like,
So
and
is
people will
it?
go to Lebanese American University or whatever, and would expect to have like a course on the pre-Socratics, and someone has to do that. And
Yeah,
there's like nothing wrong on people
of course. So
cultivating themselves. Probably
is
we
it
create too
bullshit?
many.
Yeah,
I think that the output of philosophy PhDs is probably more than that demand, and that creates like a bit of an unhealthy situation. But there will be some need for some of those people to exist, and it is, and some of them will enjoy it, and some of them will write papers, and some of them will like it, but
yeah, yep.
maybe that's not you.
Exactly. So is it in itself? Is it universally bullshit or useless? No, not necessarily. Do I have? Can we? Would I criticize the way education is being done, or the educational system now? Yes, but then it's like, I, if you're happy doing that, whatever works. And
And
this is partly.
also is it now, I mean, you I don't think that, I think you wrote a Medium piece that I read, and you were explaining your bureaucratic adventure to get Canadian residence, and uh, being a PhD would have grant you points that will land you now like a Canadian residency, maybe, no? And
which already did lend me a Canadian permanent
yeah,
residency. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
there's it's like I mean, even it may be that for you it makes sense, and for me it doesn't make sense, even from a practical standpoint. I mean, I'm not particularly interested in getting Canadian citizenship or
Of
Canadian.
course, yeah.
Um,
So if I were in Spain, let's say, if I had a Spanish passport, I don't think I would have even opted for a PhD. I wouldn't even have thought about a PhD.
mhm.
And the other reason why I
So it's
also
it's
did a
not it's
PhD
not
in a
good
way
or bad.
was
It's
because I
all.
wanted,
Mm,
yeah, it's practical. It's just practical. I thought I wanted to teach at a university, and also you need that.
well,
So
it's also like
it
I guess if
was
you, I
the
mean,
reasons were twofold.
I wish, I don't know if I've told you this, but I was admitted to a PhD degree, and I got an internship and all that.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I guess that if you get tenure, that's like this Latin word sinecure is the kind of like you teach, I don't know, 6 hours a week or something like that, and you get like a full salary, and then you can
Yep.
spend your time at the intellectual inquisitions, and then you go to campus, and it's a nice environment, it's not like a cubicle. So I mean that some people want that. I don't find it surprising at all.
No, 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 not at all. Not at all.
But then it is like competition is fierce, and there is all the unhealthy part and so on that you will have to go through, right? And
Yep.
yeah.
And and this is maybe your experience also is partly similar, but then in the industry. So it's because you can simply assume that I have a problem only with academia. Well, of course, I have a problem with academia because this is my personal experience. But then
Mm.
you might have the same experience in a in an industry in the
Well, I
industry, and
see.
then
I'll tell you a secret. I did. I mean, I think you didn't, but you may probably have been close to a burnout. I did experience a burnout, when I was working for Accenture. And it's also I'm saying this is it's a bit shameful kind of experience. Then so many people have gone through it. So
yeah,
it's and the thing is also it was about the status seeking and the artificial perks associated. So it was a very unhealthy and artificial environment, at least for me. Some others might like it, or some others might thrive on it. I don't think I ever liked it. I landed there a bit by mistake. But then once I was there, I was trying to play the status game and get promotion and that kind of thing. And then that drive me a bit sick, literally. Uh,
yeah, yeah. And but another, so this burnout, I think many would convince themselves that this is okay, or this is suffering is good to get to be able to achieve your goals, to achieve your whatever. And this is why I found in both Nassim and Mark Baker's Guru Anaerobics books slash endeavors, and even Dan Vassallo.
I have not
It's
read
it's
him,
yeah,
Vassallo. I
yeah.
follow him on Twitter.
Well, it's not a, I haven't read him, like his book is technical. I bought his course on how to create an audience. But the idea is, so his what he does is basically interesting for me because he was at Amazon. He wrote about his
Yeah, yeah.
an article about how he
He's
quit
very
Amazon. So
open about what he's doing, which is very
yeah.
interesting. Huh?
So, but the idea is, yeah. So you exit the rat race. The problem is when you start lying, not lying. You start in this sense trying to convince yourself that this is that you should do that. That this is necessary for you to get to places or to get uh, whatever, and you start convincing yourself that it's all right and it's okay, and then you experience burnouts, and then you become even more stressed, and blah 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 blah, and things become all too um, stressful. And many people do it, they're not happy, and they keep on convincing themselves that, yeah, you need to work hard, and then you need to do this and that. And the
Well,
idea is, do you have, like, you can work hard. The problem is not with working hard. The problem is with whether what you're doing is something that is not making your life more miserable.
yeah, well, was telling you about these people who rent an apartment in Spain and want to like put a clean sheet, and and that they then they come with these stereotypes of the American version of the place, and I think many of those cases that I'm telling you is like people who have gone through shit, and and then they need an excuse to change their life by maybe changing radically their environment by
Yeah,
moving to some other country,
yeah,
because they actually get trapped into this kind of rat race or something, and then they, yeah, it's, yeah,
yep. So my situation now is more precarious than when I was a part-timer,
okay,
right? Because
okay.
at any
Is it?
particular moment in time, maybe people would stop registering for my courses, right?
Well, why would that be the case? I mean, it's like if you were a part timer, like the university might cancel your contract next
Of
term.
course, but this is the thing. So it's more precarious now because like at any moment in time, if I'm only, so my now uh, challenge is to try to diversify my options to not
Mm.
depend only on, let's say, Twitter,
Okay,
or
okay. So your revenue depends too much on that stream, so to say. Your livelihood depends too much on that.
yes,
And
and
if you get
particularly
like
on my
canceled in
Twitter
Twitter or
account.
something like that,
Yeah,
then you're
I'm
fucked.
fucked. Yeah,
Okay.
I do have a subscription, a list of subscribers, etc. But then the idea is, so it will take time. But the point I'm making is, despite all this precarity, or I'm less stressed.
Hmm.
I might, like, it's very difficult to explain. I was more stressed at university, knowing that I will always at least have enough courses to secure a living. But I wasn't. But I was stressed.
Hmm.
What I was doing was stressful. The dealing with all this politics shit was stressful. Now I might not have a course next, or people might less people might sign up, or whatever. I might, my account might be suspended,
I'm a
but
repeating
I'm less.
customer. Huh? I'm
Huh?
saying
Oh
I'm a
yeah, yeah,
repeating customer
yeah.
here.
Yeah. Which, and we're starting the course
Next week.
next week. Yeah. So the idea is, I cannot explain it. I'm less stressed. I'm
Well,
less
but
worried.
you find out this, and also like how it's sincerely interested. Like how you came up with the idea? It was like just out of necessity, or like you had been thinking about this a long time, or how?
Nope. Nope.
And
Nope.
the fact that it works, like I'm very pleased that it was the case. When we met, when we first met, you didn't have these gigs.
Yep. Nope. Let me. So it was. I wrote about that in the article, my venture to bring philosophy back to the marketplace. I genuinely, like, it's not something I was thinking about. Maybe unconsciously I was toying with the idea, but I cannot pretend that I spoke or discussed like I did. It wasn't something that I bounced off other people or thought about it, because, and in this case, if I had asked other people, I think they would have dissuaded me from doing that, because they would be like, no, why spend time doing that? No one will register, no one will care about a philosophy course online. And I still keep hearing such
Oh,
arguments
even today?
even today. So I posted, like, seriously, I genuinely don't know how I came up with the idea. But let me. I found the tweet, but I'm still waiting for the actual tweet to load. to tell you when exactly I
Well,
published it.
since
But
I've
I
registered to
posted. So
your.
look, so this is what I posted. I had a syllabus, an existentialism and literature syllabus ready from my courses. I just uh, adapted it for an online course, and I got out a few things. May 11, 2020. And I didn't even think it through. I just posted fellow tweeps, anyone potentially interested in a 9 weeks online course on existentialism and literature.
And
It
people were signing up.
and it sort of went mini viral because the impressions of that tweet were 29,914, and the total engagements were 4,400. And yeah, people wrote to me, they were interested, so I got them to sign up
Well,
for
why not? Yeah.
yeah, like 100 people wrote to me, and then eventually up, I think 35 or 40 people signed up,
It's
and that was
it's
that was the start.
it's fascinating. Yeah. And
Yeah, I don't understand, so I cannot really pretend to understand what is going on because I
well,
still don't
why
get.
not? I mean, it's also I think we have said these things on Twitter. We have discussed this on DM. That I mean, if you would register for the same course on the Lebanese American University, you will maybe paying, I don't know, $2,000 or
two
whatever. I
thousand
don't know what it is.
dollars
Okay, and then it's an excellent deal, the one you are proposing. And
Yeah.
and also, like, I am repeating customer now. It's also, I don't care that much about if it's existentialist or like ethics of science or whatever. It's also, it feels a bit like you meet with friends and you have intellectual conversation. That was telling you that it seems to me like a very interesting business model, and the fact that it is working for you. It's like is and why not? People pay for therapy.
Yep.
So
Yep.
why wouldn't you pay, like, to discuss about, things, whatever, heavenly or earthly, and with some other people, like, coordinated with a philosophy professor? Yeah, why not?
Of course, and in theory, but then in reality, it will, like, it's um, I keep on asking myself whether this would be sustainable in the long run, like whether I can actually
Well,
do
I think yes, as long as you you keep doing it, and like having courses and so on. Maybe, just, I am not to spook you out, but maybe there's a pandemic effect, because I find, like, the fact that it's more difficult to meet people in real life that you do over the net. It, like, compensates for that, and that, that's a natural market. And maybe, maybe that would, I hope not, but maybe that would eventually fade away once the pandemic is over. I don't know.
mind you, my if had it not been for the pandemic, I would have been doing it both online and in person. So it's not that I'm doing it online because I think that only online works, or that in person and face to face doesn't
Well,
work.
it's
But then
also, there are many Lebanese signing up, right? It's like,
yes and no. It depends on the course,
hmm.
and it depends on, like, when Nassim Taleb retweets them. Eventually, I end up having a very diverse group, and you were in one of those. It's like people
Well,
from across
I,
the
I
globe
I knew
signing
you
up.
before Nassim would retweet you. Okay, so no, no, it's not me. The thing is, see, I also see
Not
Nassim retweets, but it's more that I did not sign to the first courses because I was, like, sort of busy or something. So I
No, no,
waited.
no, not yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, I've had courses. Like, the first course was the majority were Lebanese and Lebanese expats as well. But then when it's true, like, uh, it, being the some of the exposure that I had was really thanks to Nasim,
Yeah,
because of his out, like, it's so people across the globe now
yeah. Well, he
are
has
aware of
six
this guy
thousand
in
followers
Lebanon.
or something like
Six
that, right?
hundred
So,
thousand, yes,
and
yes.
it's and let me also explain it because I think that correct me if I'm wrong. You have met Nasim. He invited you over for dinner. You met his family or something like that, and it happened over Twitter, which is a bit like we met over Twitter, and you met Nasim over Twitter, and it's like you were like I don't know how it happened. You may tell us, but
I
it's like
don't.
you were like whatever replying in his tweets or something. You had the interest in common, like Lebanese language among other, and then you have happened to met.
Before that, it was AUB, but yes.
But it's okay. But what is interesting for me for the emergence of Twitter and so on is like you met over Twitter, and then you met in real life, and then you became sort of friends.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like how lucky of you, many of us would like
It's like
to
I
have
things
that
that
that kind of
yeah,
friendship.
yeah, and I was skeptical about Twitter at the beginning because my wife was constantly pushing me to create a Twitter account, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to be
Okay.
doing on Twitter? And that was 2 years ago, or 2018. And yeah, so I started a Twitter account 2018. Let me see
So
exactly. I
it's
think I
very
can.
recent. I would assume that you have been in Twitter for ages, but
No,
no.
joined May 2018.
Okay. So you are good at Twitter.
I'm not good at Twitter. It's see, this is what I don't understand because I keep it and I wrote about it as well in my in one of the articles. This one was published in Ario about war and death and shit like that. Um, it for I was I learned how to use Twitter, if you want, in a way such that I understood eventually that it could potentially be a tool to get to know interesting people.
Hmm.
I do
I
trash
didn't
talk
manage
and
to
shit talk.
learn that after like I only managed to learn that after 6 or 7 years in Twitter. Seriously.
Maybe because people also like it takes maybe other because I joined in late because it was already in the air perhaps or not. I don't know how people might have perceived
No,
Twitter
well, that's,
before.
if I tell you about my Twitter experience, also I was like kind of lurking for years. No, I was not pushing
Oh,
any content, so I wouldn't.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
in an almost obvious manner, people will not be compelled to interact with me because I was basically reading to other people's tweets and liking tweets and things like that, or retweeting from time to time, but not pushing any content.
Yep,
And I
yep.
was
And
also
you would be,
spooked
yeah.
about it. It's like it's like I was sort of owned in the sense that I was working for Accenture or other companies.
Oh,
And no, and then it is like that you may say something inconvenient and get fired and things like that. And that was my mentality. I don't give a fuck anymore, but that used to be the case. And then it's like it's like an asymmetry, right? It's like you find like your livelihood on one hand, and then whatever you feel like saying some stupid shit on Twitter, then your livelihood come first. Um,
yeah. See, yeah, this is in part.
oh,
My cat
yeah.
says hi.
I've met your cat in some of the philosophy of religion courses before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
¿Qué pasa, chiquita? So
¿Cómo se llama?
it
What's her
wasn't
name?
Yasmin.
Hmm.
Yasmin, Jazmin sería en
You,
español.
you take it to Canada, I guess. Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Of
Yeah,
course.
both. Yeah. Whoops. Yes. Nope. Not the laptop. Many a
I
tweets.
think you know that this is like a kind of a signal that we are running out of time or something. But anyway,
Yeah, no, it's fine. But the first, in fact, the first tweet that and or the one comment on the side, it's something that you would really not think would be possible, but then you really get to meet people from all across the globe and people who are well known, like
yeah.
Nasim and other
Yeah, well,
people. You know,
I tell you, for me, Nassim was he doesn't follow me on Twitter anymore, but he was following me like for more than 1 year. It's like, you know, my favorite writer is following me on Twitter. It's like it was this is really something that I would not thought possible. So to say, you know, it's like a and well, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you can even
then we have
interact with.
met in person, and so to say, you know, in Real World Risk Institute. Are you doing that, by the way? Is
No,
not
no,
going to happen anytime
not
soon?
yet. Not no, not anytime soon.
Yeah.
I would love to, but yeah,
Have you asked him? I mean, just curiosity.
no,
No. Okay.
no. Uh, like I would. Yeah, I think I'm not yet ready. I don't know. It's
Oh, of course you are. Yes, just
no,
forget about
no.
that. Eh,
Will like it's on the list. But yeah, so it's you can interact with people and um, so it opens up new uh, uh, doors. If to say it this way, it's
Hmm. You
and
know, I'm trading
unexpectedly,
since I went to
it's
Real World Risk Institute. I'm trading, which I was not doing before, and I mean, so far so good. It's just I'm not going to show off or something, but you know, I was not trading. I'm trading. I might be fooled by randomness, but it is going well for me. You know. Anyway.
insofar as maybe you understand the because I saw something yeah the other day yesterday someone posted a tweet that he or she gave Nassim's books to someone and their friend thought that it was too philosophical, that they would just wanted an investment advice kind of, so they didn't like the
Oh.
book because it was too philosophical.
Well, there's the thing that you and I, you know, the thing is like we see Taleb as a philosopher. You included him in your syllabus of philosophy of religion, which I think that I don't know this very well, but he's a bit of a controversial figure in Lebanon, is he? Or I mean, so some people are unhappy that you do that, and then they post you in your tweet like, "What the fuck does Nassim does there?" Like with,
Yep.
you know, with whatever Thomas Aquinas and whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
It-
Yep.
it- but it's because I had the impression, you know, that was surprised because I'm sort of a fan, and so you know that he's not so famous in Lebanon.
Depends on the circles. Like he is famous in he's either famous or infamous. He's like
Yeah, you either love him or
you
hate him.
either and even here the difference is that those who don't like him haven't even bothered to read him.
But they know he exists and he's an author and he has like
Yes.
contrarian opinions. I mean, I'm saying contrarian like this because I managed to agree with him on most things. But yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but but as yeah, but I do agree. Like you do meet people who don't even uh, who haven't heard of him before. So which is curious because you would
well,
expect that
I'm telling you my experience
finance
when I
students
went
would
to
know.
Beirut. I don't know
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
told you this. I probably did, but I went to Librairie Orientale. I think it's probably one of the main bookshops in Beirut, right? And I asked the lady there, like owner, not probably not the owner, the bookshop. The bookshop person that was uh, there, that like about Taleb's books, and she told me like something like here's like Lebanese authors, and they had like I don't know, I mean Malouf and the Prophet by Khalid Gibran and that kind of thing, but I mean it's like she didn't know Taleb, like a bookshop, a
Yeah,
person
yeah.
working in a bookshop, in one of the main bookshops in Beirut.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's this is also his something he tweeted the other day. He posted a picture and he says along the lines of one day it was a stand of Lebanese authors books at a bookshop, and or yeah, they usually you find him in uh, business
yeah, well, you told me also something like
shelves.
that's not just the case in Lebanon. Okay, I think he's a philosopher. I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's the appropriate label. But yeah, that anyway, I forgot what I wanted to tell you. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's like I think we have gone through Feyerabend, your book, uh, and Nassim and whatever. It's like maybe it's time to wrap up. What do you think, Mahmoud?
yeah, yeah. It's 2 hours.
2 hours? Okay, then
Yeah.
I will. I'll
No,
close it. I'll close it here.
we'll wrap it up, but yeah, because you no, you expected it to
No,
be
I'm sure that
shorter.
we could keep it going, but maybe there's no point. So I'll close it here. I thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed the discussion, and it's especially that it wasn't so much
See you
about the
next week
book per se.
in your I don't know the name of the of the of the course, but
Please, or at least, yeah. So
love and
this
philosophy or something
anecdote.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
know
don't
that you
even
are
know the
going to
name of the
talk
course.
Henri Bergson, which I'm interested because I have not read him, and I'm a bit
Yeah.
curious, and then I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so it's next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Beirut time. I sent you the email, I think, so you can accept the calendar request. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
already did that or
I'll do that.
you've already
Don't
done that.
worry.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Uh, yeah, well, so much so that last time you were there 1 week early.
Right. Because I just you send the email 1 week before, and it's like Monday whatever, and I didn't even read the date.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
this happens to me all the time. Don't worry. It's me. It's not you.
You miss a lot of planes, it seems, as well.
I've, I've I've missed a lot of them. It's I mean it's a factual statement. Actually, when I was working for Accenture, it would happen like recurrently. They didn't care that much about it. So they would really
Interesting.
just miss a plane. I would have like a hotline and then book another plane a few hours later or something. So
Nice.
I just I mean yeah, it was one of the
Uh,
perks of the job.
yeah.
Okay,
So thanks for this.
thank
I
you, and
enjoyed
I,
it,
I
man.
really enjoy it, and then I'm looking forward to connect with you and also enjoy your book, Sardonically Speaking, that is on Gumroad,
Yep.
and see you next week. Thanks.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.